What we're mainly looking at now is getting our soil structure correct and emollients. So we start with the ground, get it right, and then everything else should be flowed through. We shouldn't have to variable rate our fertilisers if we've got a constant paddock thing. So we've adopted EM mapping, and it's made life a lot easier as far as soil testing now. We test the target spots, and then from there we do whether we need gypsum or even just straight magnesium or whatever we need to rectify those problems, target those problems, and then we've noticed now we've got an even crop through our cycle now.
HCPSL purchased a dual EM 421S. That basically is a big yellow pipe that we tow behind the vehicle. That puts an electromagnetic field into the ground, and it's got several receiving coils which measure the amount of return that we get, and that relates to the conductivity of the soil. So there are several things that affect the conductivity of your soil. One is soil moisture, then there's salinity, and then there are a few other smaller or less significant things. We use that data then for targeted soil sampling. So we can actually go back and take, say, a soil sample in a high value where there's high values and another sample where there's low values, and start to understand the differences. Then that information, once they take soil samples, that information goes to an agronomist. The agronomist sits down with the grower and they discuss any known issues within a block. Then the agronomist will basically take our paper map of that block, draw some lines on it, and say, okay, it might need 2 tonnes of gypsum here, or 2 tonnes per hectare of gypsum here, 4 tonnes per hectare here, and if there's a really bad part, it might be 6 or 8 tonnes per hectare. So they then give that information back to me, and I create that variable rate prescription map based on what we get, based on the data that comes out of the dual EM. We've got several nitrogen use efficiency trials that we're using GIS and the mapping for, and there's been a few growers who now have their whole farm EM mapped. So once other growers start to hear about that, they start saying, well, I might give it a go. I've got a couple of blocks that we've just harvested. We'll get some EM mapping done and we'll have a look and see what we can do.
A lot of our soil tests, particularly on one farm, were sodic, and the recommendation was to apply 3 tonnes of gypsum per hectare. That's what we were doing, and we were finding no benefit to that. So basically the patches that were sodic continued to be sodic, and we just couldn't grow the cane in those patches. That's where we moved into talking about variable rate and applying the gypsum where it was needed at a lot higher rate. So from there, we started EM mapping. That gave us an overview of the soil. We then could pick our hot spots. So I, as the farmer, knew where the spots were. The EM map confirmed it. We would take our soil tests there. Then we went from applying 3 tonne of gypsum per hectare to applying 8 tonne of gypsum in the spots that were required. So to do that, we had our own spreader that we turned into a variable rate spreader. So we put field IQ on that spreader through our GPS. Through the EM map, we get what's called a prescription. We upload that prescription into the GPS, basically drive into the paddock, fill the spreader, we push the button, and it knows where to apply the gypsum and where not to. And the results we're getting is obviously we've seen a benefit. I'm not saying that it's perfect, there's still a little bit of fine tuning. Obviously there are some cases where we saw a benefit, but in late returns we were seeing those sodic patches coming back, so whether it required more gypsum to be applied in those areas, and that's the fine tuning that we're doing.